Hello guys, Adam here from Switch Indie Fix, and I am bringing you the latest episode of the Switch Indie Fix podcast. It's been a little while since I've recorded an episode, so I might be a bit rusty today, but please bear with me. Just to let you know, if you're an audio listener, I'm also recording for the first time some video for the podcast. So right now, if you're on YouTube, you should be able to see me. Hopefully, if the video works out, it could be a good chance that my computer just decides to give in because it has to do with so much processing, but yeah, we'll see what happens. So yeah, welcome to the podcast, guys. Thanks to all of you that have stuck around through this kind of dry period. I think the last podcast I made was back in June for E3. So yeah, I'm really happy to be back. I had quite a busy summer. I was away quite a lot, nearly every weekend, so I didn't really have any time to record anything or really even play games. I was on holiday in Thailand for 2 weeks, and I was in Prague, and I was in other parts of Austria. So yeah, it's been a busy time, but right now I seem to be in a good place. I got some time, got some free time, so I'm able to record some more stuff, and I'm really happy that I am. So let's get on with the podcast. The first thing to do, as always, is to do the housekeeping. So yeah, last week, if you follow closely, I posted a review of Minit, which is a game by Devolver Digital, which is basically kind of like a mix between a roguelike and a Zelda game. It's a really cool concept. I really like the game, so please make sure you go and check out the review on the website, and also look out for tomorrow. Tomorrow's review will be Wulverblade, which is also another great game, so worth checking out. Also tomorrow, if you're around, it'll be evening time for me. I am planning on playing some multiplayer games with the community. I've not 100% decided what I'm going to play yet. I'm thinking probably Fortnite and Paladins. I know they're not exactly indie games, but they're both free, so everyone can play along. There'll be more info on Twitter, on my new Instagram page. If you guys have Instagram, make sure you go and check me out there. It's Switch Indie Fix. We've also got I've got quite a lot of followers already. A lot, is relative, but more than I thought I'd have. So that's pretty cool, getting hopefully some new people into the community. Or you can go to the Discord at switchindiefix.com/Discord and find out there. So that's just the housekeeping that I wanted to do, because I want to let you all know what my plans are. I'm trying to be a bit more active these next couple of weeks because, like I said, I have got a lot of free time. Also, for the podcast, as always, I need your questions. They're a really awesome part of the show, which I love doing. I love getting the questions from you guys and trying to answer them as best I can. If you have any questions for next week's podcast, make sure you go to switchindiefix.com/SIF podcast. So let's get on with the first segment of the show. The first segment, as always, is the news. Time for some news, as Greg Miller would say. So, obviously, the biggest news this week was on Tuesday, the Indie Showcase, which Nintendo of America showed off some of their most anticipated indie games, a few small ones, a lot of big ones. As an Indie Showcase goes, it wasn't the most exciting we've seen, but it's nonetheless cool. We got the highlights reel, the indie highlights from Nintendo of Europe around Gamescom, and now Nintendo of America also doing their thing. I'm not really going to speak too much about the Indie Showcase this week, as I made a roundup video that I posted on my YouTube channel. So go, if you're not already subscribed, go and watch the video there, please, and subscribe. So this week we have a very long list. There's 10 items on the list, which is half a baker's dozen. And the first item is actually breaking news, and it is that Travis Strikes Back, a No More Heroes kind of spin-off game, has had its release date announced pretty much, I'd say, 20 minutes before I recorded the podcast. This popped up on Twitter via the Nintendo UK Twitter that Travis Strikes Back will be coming to the Switch on the 18th of January 2018, which is big news for indies, because I guess it's a semi-indie game. I think Nintendo must put some money behind it, either via publishing or certainly in the marketing, because I believe the game is exclusive to Nintendo. But it's cool because this was touted, I think, back in the very first Indie Showcase as one of the big releases, the big kind of creme de la creme of indies that the Switch was going to have. So it's cool that the game has finally got a release date. We still have a little bit of time to wait for it. And it's a game that, honestly, the more I see of it, the less I want to play it. But I feel like I should play it because it is touted as like a huge indie kind of what's the word? Indie franchise. So it's cool news. I know there's a lot of people that like the No More Heroes games, and I know this is kind of like a spin-off, so I'm excited to see what happens, and I'm excited to try the game out for myself. So, number 2, which is also big news and not breaking, but was kind of, it broke today, is that hackers have data mined the Switch's latest firmware update, and the update actually shows info about the 6.0 update. So if you don't know what the 6.0 update is, it's basically the online infrastructure and the new firmware that comes along with it. So hopefully there's going to be a lot of, to make the Switch's UI a little bit easier to use and maybe a bit more appealing. But as reported by Game Explain, a YouTube channel, Game Explain, hackers have data mined the Switch latest firmware update and have found that some features from the upcoming 6.0 firmware update are already live. So some of the things that they found were that the save backup system is already working, but like disabled. They also found that there are going to be new profile pics. Most notably, a lot of them are from Captain Toad, which is pretty cool, and a few from the new what's it called? What's the pink ball called? Kirby game, the new Kirby game. So that's exciting. It gives people some new icons to play with for their profile pictures. And they also found out that the slogan for the online infrastructure is going to be more games, more features, and more fun. And I think most notably is that with the upcoming online infrastructure and the fact that the Nintendo Switch Online will provide us with NES games in some way, is that controller icons were found in this data mine of the NES controller. Also like this SNES, so there's kind of speculation, okay, well, we'll be getting SNES games alongside the NES ones with the Switch Online infrastructure. I guess no one really knows because Nintendo they've kind of kept it very secret what they're actually planning to do. I feel like no one really knows it, and I hope that they are coming out, they're going to surprise us with a few new features, or at least some new features for the UI. I've seen a few like concept art kind of videos going around on Twitter about what people want, like, being able to have your own background, being able to have folders on the Switch's homepage, and I really hope stuff like that comes because right now my Switch, I finally bought a memory card for it. It's getting full up with games, and I keep finding it hard to actually find the games I want to play. So yeah, that would be really helpful. So moving on to story number 3, and that is that Nicholas announces the Binding of Isaac Repentance. So, in a totally out of the blue announcement, indie publishers Nicholas revealed the next installment of the Binding of Isaac franchise via their Twitter. A mysterious video appeared on Thursday morning, which Thursday morning for me, it might have been later on in the day for you if you're in America, with a title splash screen of the presumably new game. Nicholas stated that more info will be at their booth at PAX West this weekend. This comes a bit of a surprise for me because Edward McMillan, the kind of director and art director of the Binding of Isaac, seems to be busy with a lot of other projects, most notably his Isaac card game, Four Souls, and the Legend of Bumbo game that's touted as coming out soonish. This factor makes me think that maybe it's a spin-off of the main series. Because usually, I don't know, obviously I don't know Ed McMillan, but following him on Twitter, he has a very open way to his games, like he lets people know a lot of information early on, and he usually does a lot of Q&As about the games he's working on or the projects he's working on. So having this come totally out of the blue makes me think maybe he's not that involved with it. Maybe it's going to be a spin-off. Nevertheless, I'm sure fans of the Binding of Isaac are exciting, and I'm excited to kind of look at social media this weekend and find out what the game is actually about. So, story number 4 is Shovel Knight Treasure Trove gets a physical Switch release via IGN. The rumored Shovel Knight Physical Edition has finally had its release date revealed. The physical edition will be released on April 9th, 2019. The The edition will include all of the DLC, including the new King of Cards campaign and the new battle mode Shovel Knight Showdown. Also, the 3 new amiibos of the Plague Knight, King Knight, and the third one escapes me. But the 3 amiibos will also be releasing on the same day too. So that's awesome news for the millions of us that have bought the the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. It means we get this update for free, which is awesome. With the new King of Cards campaign and the Shovel Knight Showdown. If you haven't bought the game yet and you were waiting for a possible physical release, obviously now's the time. The physical release was retailing at $39.99 on GameStop, so it's a little bit more expensive than the digital edition. I got a Treasure Trove for €25, I think. So it's a bit more expensive, but I have to say that the cover art for the physical release looks really awesome. And you were really, for $40, I think you couldn't really get a better value for money game than Shovel Knight, especially with all the DLC. And it's also exciting for me to see what Yacht Club go on to next, because they've put so much effort and so much love and care into Shovel Knight, and they've supported it for, I don't know, I think 3 or 4 years. It's going to be really cool to see what they do next. Will they do like another 2D pixelated platformer, or will they move on to something modern? Like, I really hope they stick with the old school genre, but making it modern. Like, that would be really cool. But it'd be cool to see them to do another genre too. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. Story number 5. Enter the Gungeon gets a physical edition. So this, I wouldn't say is like big news, but what was cool is that Enter the Gungeon will be getting a physical release on the Switch. Special Reserve Games, who I've not heard of, there seems to be so many of these like limited edition or limited run games clones popping up, where these publishers are bringing so many indie games to the Switch that for me it's kind of taken away a lot of what makes physical games special, because there seems to be so many of them now. But they'll be producing a physical edition of the game alongside a real Gunnomicon, I believe it's called, which basically, if you've never played Enter the Gungeon, the Gunnomicon is like basically like almost like a Bible for every item in the game. It has a description for the item. It also has a description for it has like a bestiary for all the enemies in the game, and it honestly looks really awesome. It looks like it has like almost like it's probably not a real leather, but it looks like it has like a leather cover with like a branding on it with the logos from the game. So yeah, if you're a collector and an Enter the Gungeon player and fan, I think this is going to be an edition that goes very quickly. So number 6 is that Blossom Tales: The Sleeping King sells 20 times more on the Switch than on Steam. So Blossom Tales publishers, FDG Entertainment, revealed earlier this week that Blossom Tales has sold 20 times more copies on the Switch than it did on Steam. Earlier this year, FDG revealed that the Switch edition of the game sold so well that it kept the game's developers, Castle Pixel, from closing down. So again, this isn't really a big story, but it's an interesting one, and it shows the state of indie games on the Switch, or at least it shows the state of indie games on the Switch when they released 6 months ago. That yeah, people that own Switches buy games, and it shows that when you make a good, high quality game for the Switch, that it well, maybe not now, but it will sell well. Hopefully, people will hopefully find it and will buy it, and via word of mouth. Because I definitely think that's how Blossom Tales grew, was via word of mouth, because there wasn't so much press coverage of it. It was more like, people like Brian Altorno kind of mention it on the MVC podcast, and people on Twitter sharing pictures of it, and other people saying, oh well, yeah, it looks like kind of like a Zelda clone, so maybe I should try it out. So yeah, I just thought that was like a cool piece of news, that it sells so much better on the Switch than on Steam. Obviously kind of highlights the findability of games on Steam. Even like good ones kind of get lost in the mix there, so it's nice to see that they're selling well on the Switch. So another physical edition story is that Limited Run are releasing a physical edition of ToeJam and Earl Back in the Groove. So Limited Run are bringing another physical Switch game, another game physically to the Switch. Like I said, that's not really big news. However, what's cool about Toe Jam and Earl edition is that if you're at PAX West this weekend, you'll be able to get a special limited edition Sega Mega Drive inspired case for the game. Stock's limited to 500, so if you're at PAX, make sure you go and grab one. Again, go and look at Limited Run's Twitter page. They posted pictures of this cool, like, it really looks like a Sega Mega Drive case, like almost, like a VHS case. Even with like a card inside that you would put in top of the Sega. So I just thought that was like a cool little tidbit for you guys that are fans of physical editions, because I know there's a lot of you there. Number 8 is that Battle Chef Brigade Deluxe Edition releases on Switch this week. So as of recording, the game should already be out. I believe on the US eShop it's on sale. It's down to $11.99, which is really cool, because usually when developers do this or publishers do this, they re-release the game and it gets like a price hike. So it's nice to see that they've re-released it with all this extra content, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and they're actually put it on sale. So that's cool. I hope it comes to the EU eShop too, because I'll definitely buy it. It's been on my list to play for months and months and months, and yeah. So what the Deluxe Edition brings: a split-screen multiplayer mode. It has 2 new game modes and a new character. So like I said, it's available now. It adds a lot of content to the original base game. So if you played the base game, I'm not sure if you get it free or if it's like an add-on. But yeah, I think now is the time to play it if you want to play Battle Chef Brigade. Story number 9 is that Sidebar Games is working on a new game. So Sidebar Games, developers of Indie Darling's Golf Story, are working on a new game. Responding to a fan on Twitter, the developers confirmed that we are working on a new game and that hopefully it will surprise you. So hopefully they'll bring the game to the Switch first, like they did with the excellent Golf Story. I really hope they make another kind of like Game Boy Color inspired RPG. Golf Story was great, but I think there wasn't enough golf in it. So yeah, I'd like to see like maybe another sports inspired RPG. Or maybe they make something totally different. But I have to say, like, the art style they have in Golf Story was beautiful. So I hope they keep that. And I'm excited to find out that they're making a new game, because Golf Story seems to have been a big success. And it's cool that they made enough money to make a new game, which is cool. So story number 10 is A Hat in Time is announced for Switch. So even though the developers stated they wouldn't bring the game to the Switch, this week, they announced that, in fact, they will be bringing the 3D GameCube love letter platformer to the Switch. So fans of, I guess if you're into indies and you listen to this podcast, you already know what A Hat in Time is. It's kind of like a 3D, it's like a throwback to 3D games, 3D kind of, what's the word? 3D, what's the word? Sorry. Like kind of like Mario Sunshine and Banjo-Kazooie, and yeah, so those kind of not character driven, but cartoony characters. They have a name, but it's totally just gone over my head. But I hope you guys know what I mean. So yeah, it's a game I've been looking forward to playing. I've been kind of waiting for it to come to the Switch, because like I said, the developers said they wouldn't bring it to the Switch and that they hadn't thought about bringing it to the Switch, and now they're saying they are bringing it, because I think they're obviously seeing how well indie games are doing. And I think now there's enough time between Mario Odyssey, and maybe fans of this kind of genre are now craving for another good one on the Switch, so now is the perfect time to bring it. So that was this week's news. Let me know via my social media which of the various newly announced titles or physical editions you're most looking forward to, what your most hype story was, I guess. Mine is definitely that, well, Travis Strikes Back is coming to the Switch, but Nicholas are potentially bringing a new Binding of Isaac game out, so that's really, really cool. So section 2 of the podcast is my conversational portion, so I'm just going to kind of talk about what I've been playing this week. As I said at the start of the show, I beat Minit last week, which it's a very unique game, I'd say. It has a lot of quirks to it, which I really like. Basically, the premise is that you are in a top-down 2D world, kind of like The Legend of Zelda, and you pick up a a cursed sword, and the sword limits your life to only 60 seconds. So the idea is that every 60 seconds your life restarts, but any progress you make in the game remains. So say in the first 60 seconds you run out of the door, chop down a piece of grass, and then find a key. Then in your next life you'll already have the key. So then you can run in that 60 seconds to a door that's locked, use the key, open the door, and maybe pick up another item like an axe, which then you die, you reset, and maybe then the axe lets you go and chop down a tree and opens up a new area, and then you find something in that new area, and you kind of slowly progress through the story. Yeah, I did air quotes for the people on YouTube. So you progress through the story, but it's more like a puzzler where the kind of, it has like a roguelike aspect of you dying and restarting every time, but kind of like Rogue Legacy, the items and the effect you have on the world remains. So, as some people have said, most namely Age of Boredom, it seems kind of tedious, this game. And in some aspects it was, but it keeps you on the hook long enough to kind of pull you through the game. So there's like, it's basically, it kind of scrolls through the map. So you have, you're sent a tile and you can go north, south, east, or west. And indeed, most of the time, if you were stuck, it was like, okay, I've gone south and I've gone as far south as I can, and I've done everything I can. And then you're like, okay, I don't know what to do next. And it was really like, okay, I just need to explore a little bit. Maybe I should just go west now. And then you go west. And the game is so well designed and kind of linked together that it's like, okay, now I have this item that I know I need for something in the south. So then it's like, okay, now I'll run all the way back to the south in my next life, unlock something, and it's like, okay, now I know I need this one for a puzzle in the north. And it's really well put together. It does a really good job of keeping you entertained and keeping you wanting to progress through the kind of story that there is. So go and check out the review. I think, if you like roguelike games and you like old school Zelda, you'll definitely like it. The art style is very unique. It's all black and white. Has some cool looking characters. Make sure you check out the review. And secondly, what I've been playing this week and what I kind of got really, really absorbed into and didn't expect to was Wulverblade. So it's basically a historical brawler based in Roman Britain. The thing that first attracted to me this way back when, I think maybe even before the Switch was released, was the art style, because the art looks so bold, like the colors are so bright, but then there's also like such like a dark background and foreground that really mixes well together. And because it's based in historical Britain, Roman Britain, it was like a big appeal to me because I'm a history graduate. So, and you don't see many of these historically kind of accurate, again in air quotes, games, especially on the Switch, the more PC strategy games. So I picked it up back in December, and it was really, really, really hard. Like I don't think I'm a great gamer, but I'm adequate at games to usually beat them and get my way through them. But by the third level, I was really stuck on Wulverblade. But there was kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel because I couldn't get through the third level, so I put the game down. And the light was that the developer said that, okay, we understand that for new people to this genre, the game might be a bit hard, so we're making an easy mode. So basically, I waited on the game for the easy mode. The easy mode came. I was stuck. I was playing something else. I didn't have time to go back to Wulverblade. And like I said at the start of the show, now I've got a bit of time, and I just kind of jumped into it to see how the easy game played out, and it was easier. It was easy enough for me to beat the boss. And then after the third level, I pretty much played it non-stop until I beat it. So that was like a really cool. That was a really cool thing to get kind of stuck in a game. To get stuck back into a game I wasn't really expecting. And when I say stuck in, that's like a very British colloquial term for like getting really like enthralled with a game. So yeah, that was cool to do, and I finished the game, and tomorrow my review will be going up. And I just want to say then, if there was some like stuttering or slowdown or something, it was just my computer. You might be able to hear the fan going now because, like I've said many times, the Mac is terrible and it just can't process more than one thing at a time. So let's move on. So that's pretty much the end of the conversational section. Let me know what you guys have been playing this week. If you've played Minit, if you've read the review, tell me what you think of the review. What you think of Wulverblade if you played it. If you like history and you like brawlers, I think you should definitely pick it up. Maybe you're better than me and you'll be able to beat it on normal modes instead of easy mode. But let me know. So the third and final section is our questions section. So please remember, if you have any questions for the show, make sure you send them to switchindiefix.com/SIF podcast. There is a Google form that you can fill out. It's very easy. It just basically asks you what your question is and what your name is. And then maybe you can have them read out on next week's show. Just like Kool-Aid Moonwalk did. Kool-Aid, if you don't know, runs r/NintenTube, which is a Reddit set up for small content creators that make content around Nintendo. If you are a smaller content creator, make sure you go over and check it out. It's a great place to meet new people who are trying to do the same thing as you. There's a wide range of content creators on there. So if you're not a content creator and you just want more Nintendo content, there's definitely something for you there. It's really, really awesome. So Kool-Aid asks, do you feel like roguelike games have been dominating the indie scene on the Nintendo Switch recently, in terms of indie games getting recognition and discussed? So I think what Kool-Aid is really referencing here is games like Dead Cells seem to be in the forefront of indie games on the Switch recently, or indie games in general. And I think Dead Cells was one of those games where it seems to be like a formula at the minute. You know, you have an indie game that's been in early access for a long time. It has some roguelike elements to it, and it's kind of like a cross between lots of things. You know, it's like a cross between a Castlevania, a Metroidvania. It has like an RPG aspect to it, kind of, and it's a roguelike. You know, once you die, it's permadeath. You have to start the game over again, and with whatever weapons you've unlocked or however many cells you've collected, you can buy new weapons. So I think when I look at the Switch eShop, you can definitely see that there's a huge roguelike influence there. Just to name a few, there's obviously the Binding of Isaac, which I guess you could say is like the grandfather of popularizing the roguelike game. There's games like Enter the Gungeon. There's the Wizard of Legend was another great one that came out earlier this year. Dead Cells. So there's definitely a kind of spring of roguelike games that are coming out on the Switch, which I don't honestly think is a bad thing, because roguelikes offer great value for money. You know, if you get into a good roguelike, you can spend hundreds and hundreds of hours playing it if that's the kind of person you are. You know, like Wizard of Legend, I spent a lot of time in, and I haven't really gone back to it because I have to review games, and to be honest, I haven't even reviewed it yet. But so I should go back to it. But it's like, for people that maybe only buy one game a month or one game every couple of months, then there are games like Wizard of Legend and Dead Cells, or even Slay the Spire, which is coming to the Switch soon, where that's the only game you really need if that's what you're into. So yeah, they definitely offer like a good value for money. So that's kind of what I think. I think they definitely are dominating, kind of like what open world games were a couple of years ago. But a lot of indie developers don't have the means to create a huge open world game. So, okay, we can't make a 100-hour RPG, but we could make a 100-hour roguelike. And if it's successful, we can keep updating it and adding new items, or adding new skins, or adding new levels, which keep people engaged and keep those hours ticking up. So yeah, I think it's definitely something in the indie scene that's dominating. So the next question and the final question for today is, what are your thoughts on Untitled Goose Game? Do you think there's a reason why it's becoming one of the sleeper hits of this showcase? So that comes from a friend of mine, Mr. Panda. Go and check out his YouTube channel. I believe it's just Mr. Panda as well. He does really awesome reviews. Like he is an amazing reviewer, and he also edits great videos for his reviews. He mostly, I think, kind of focuses on more like big, like they always seem to be like longer games, which is really interesting for me because they're always games that I've never really heard of. Like his recent one was God Wars. It's a game I've not really heard of, but I found his review really interesting, really intriguing. I really like the way he forms his thoughts and delivers them very, very clearly and easily, something that I always have trouble doing, as you can probably tell from this podcast. So yeah, if you like not even indie games, but if you're a Nintendo Switch fan, go and follow Mr. Panda on YouTube. So yeah, why is Untitled Goose Game a sleeper hit? I think it's mostly because the premise of the game is so unusual and kind of funny, that if you don't know what Untitled Goose Game is, it's basically you are playing as a goose in a village, and you can either play it as kind of like a stealth game where you try and steal things from farmers or from villagers, or you can just play it as like a marauding goose that just goes through the village and destroys everything and just annoys everyone. So I think like the premise is funny. The art style looks really cool. Like it's very minimalistic, but it seems to be very bright and colorful, and I think it's just something different. And I think it's what a lot of people want. Like we said in the last question, there are kind of cycles of genres of games that go through all of gaming all the time, and I think this is just something totally different where people are thinking, okay, it's different. It's probably going to be relatively cheap. And it's probably going to be relatively short. So it's something you can enjoy quickly, cheaply, and maybe, you take away a bit of happiness from it or a bit of fun from it, or you make like a good YouTube video of it. So I think that it has a lot of factors going for it that make it unusual, but also make it very, very appealing to us as like hardcore gamers, and also to the person who bought his Switch for Zelda and is looking for something cool to play or looking for something new to play. It's very it stands out against a lot of other games on the Nintendo eShop. So that's it for today. Just 2 questions. Thank you, Kool-Aid, and thank you, Mr. Panda. Like I said, make sure you go check them out. Kool-Aid's he also has a YouTube channel which does great videos as well. Lots of thought-provoking videos about Nintendo and Nintendo properties, which is cool. And Mr. Panda on YouTube as well for his great reviews. So, thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Like I say, I felt like that I was a bit rusty during that. A lot of my pronunciation seems a bit mumbled, but hopefully that will improve over the coming months as I try and make this a regular thing. So the podcast, as many of you will know, will go up on Apple Podcast and Spotify. I've kind of stopped doing SoundCloud because there wasn't that many people listening on there, and my memory space ran out basically, so they want me to start paying for it, and right now I don't think there's enough people listening there to pay for it. And Stitcher as well was another one where it wasn't that easy to upload stuff there. And people weren't listening there, so I think I'm going to cut it out. If you don't have an Apple phone or an Apple product, and you don't have Spotify, you can also go to Simplecast and download the podcast from there onto your phone. So I think if you have an Android, you can upload it there. But if you have any other requests where you would like me to upload the podcast, please let me know. I was thinking about Google Play. There's a lot of other podcast apps like TuneIn and stuff like that I don't really know. But right now, it's going to be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Either the audio or the video will be getting uploaded to YouTube. So if you want to see my pretty face, go and see that. Hopefully the video works and the sound works and everything together. If it doesn't, I'll just upload the audio like usual. But hopefully it all works out. So make sure you go to youtube.com and search Switch Indie Fix. Also, if you want to get in contact, hit me up on Twitter at Switch Indie Fix. Join the Discord server for Remember Tomorrow, the multiplayer. Play along with people, hopefully, if people turn up. It's the Discord. That's switchindiefix.com/Discord. I have a new Instagram. Please go and follow me there. I'm trying to make it a bit more of like a personal Instagram alongside the the blog. My idea is that I make Twitter my kind of professional persona of Switch Indie Fix, and Instagram is going to be Adam at Switch Indie Fix. So there's going to be a lot of gaming stuff there, but there's also going to be a lot of more stuff from my personal life. Like yesterday I uploaded some drawings I did at work, and I also uploaded some pictures of my chilies on my balcony. So if that sounds interesting for you, make sure you go and follow me there, and I'll follow you back. Okay, guys, so thank you very, very much for watching or listening, and hopefully I will see you next week. Have a good one, guys.